everyone and welcome! With the new Galio and the whole Demacian story slowly approaching, I think it's time we take a little bite from what Demacia can offer. At an early age, Fiora was a child which many could call spoiled. Her mother had the finest craftsmen of Demacia make her the most lifelike dolls. But Fiora gave them to her mates and took her brother's rapier, forcing him to give her lessons in secret. Her father got her a host of dressmaking mannequins so she could craft her own dresses, but Fiora used them as target dummies. As the daughter of House Laurent, she was destined for a life as a political pawn, to be married off in order to forge alliances between Demacian houses. This did not sit well with Fiora, whose temperament saw only dishonor in being maneuvered by anyone's will, even that of her beloved father. Despite her resistance, a politically advantageous marriage was arranged with an outlying branch of House Crownguard, and plans were set for a summer wedding. But instead of meekly accepting her fate, Fiora defined it. In front of everyone, she declared that she would sooner die than be dishonored by allowing someone else control her fate. Her future husband was publicly shamed, and his family demanded a duel to the death to wipe away Fiora's scandalous insult. Fiora immediately stepped forward, but as master of House Laurent, it was her father's duty to accept. The champion of House Crownguard was truly deadly warrior, and defeat was almost certain. To lose would see House Laurent ruined and his daughter exiled in disgrace. Having seemingly no choice, Fiora's father made a decision that would damn his family for years to come. That night, he attempted to drug his opponent with a chemical that would slow down his blows, but his attempt was discovered and the master of the House Laurent was arrested. Demacian law is notoriously harsh and unforgiving. Its justice usually allows no ways out, and Fiora's father had broken its most fundamental code of honor. He would suffer public humiliation, hanged like a common criminal, and his entire family would be expelled from Demacia. On the eve of his death, Fiora visited her father's cell, but what passed between them is a secret known only to her. An ancient and all but forgotten code of honor allowed for a family member to expunge the shame of one of its number in blood, and thus avoiding the virtual death sentence of exile. Knowing they had no choice, father and daughter faced each other within the Hall of Blades. But justice would not be served by mere slaying. Fiora's father had to fight and be fought. The battle was blindingly swift, a dance of blades so exquisite that those who witnessed it would never forget what they had seen. Fiora's father was a fine swordsman in his own right, but he was no match for his daughter. They said farewell in every clash of the blade, but in the end, a tearful Fiora buried her rapier in her father's heart, and assured her family's continued place in Demacia. With her father dead at her feet, to the surprise of everyone, Fiora became the head of House Laurent. Though the honor of House Laurent was not entirely ruined, scandals are not easily erased. In the years that followed, Fiora proved to be a wise leader of her house. She became a formidable mistress of blade and negotiation, cutting to the heart of any matter with her clarity and seemingly cruel directness. Some still speak of her house in disgrace, or they mention how standards have fallen that a woman should dare call herself the ruler of a noble house, but only in private. And if these words reach Fiora's ear, she is always quick to demand justice on the edge of a blade. Yet, even here she is not without cunning, offering each challenger a way out that will allow honor to be satisfied without death. So far, none have ever accepted her offers, and none ever walked away from a duel with Fiora. With the fortunes of House Laurent on the rise, Fiora has no shortage for suitors, but none have yet to be proven worthy of her hand. Many suspect Fiora herself puts each suitor through an impossible gauntlet of courtship in order to remain unmarried, for a wife would, traditionally, relinquish power to her husband. and Fiora has never done anything traditionally. There is a story that shows us how her usual duels go. The man Fiora was going to kill was named Umberto. He had the look of a man very sure of himself. She watched him talking to 4 men, so alike they must surely be his brothers. The 5 of them were cocksure and preening, as though it was beneath their dignity to even present themselves in the Hall of Blades in answer to her challenge. The edges of the hall were filled with members of both houses, and even random onlookers. "My lady," said Amdar, her second older brother, handing her a mid-length rapier with a blue steel blade upon which light moved like an oil. "Are you sure of this?" "Of course," replied Fiora. "You heard the tales Umberto and his braggart brothers were spreading in the commercia." "I did," confirmed Amdar. "But is that worth his death? If I let one braggart slide, then others will think themselves free to wag their tongues," said Fiora. Amdar nodded and stepped back. "Then do what you must." Fiora stepped forward, rolling her shoulders and sweeping her blade twice through the air, a sign the duel was about to begin. Umberto turned as one of his brothers nudged him in the ribs. Anger touched Fiora as she noticed her opponent was eyeing her up and down, his stare lingering far too long below her neck. He drew his own weapon, a long, beautifully curved Demacian cavalry saber, with golden quillons and a sapphire inset in the pommel. A poser's weapon, and one entirely unsuited for the requirements of a duel. Umberto stepped up to his duelist's mark and repeated the sword movements she had made. He bowed to her and winked. Fiora felt her jaw tighten, but she clamped down her dislike. Emotion had no place in a duel. It could make great swordsmen fall under the blade of a lesser opponent. They circled one another, making the prescribed movements of foot and blade like dance partners at the first notes of waltz. The movements were to assure that both participants in the duel were aware of the significance of what they were soon to attempt. The rituals of the duel were important. They were designed to allow civilized folk to maintain the illusion of nobility in killing. "Good sir, I am Fiora of House Laurent," she said. "Save it for your gravemaker," snapped Umberto. She ignored his attempt to rile her. "It has come to my attention that you did injure the good name of House Laurent in an unjust and dishonorable manner by the indulgence and spreading of malicious falsehood in regards of the legitimacy of my lineage. Therefore it is my right to challenge you to a duel and restore the honor of my house in your blood." "I already know this," said Umberto, playing to the crowd. "I'm here, aren't I?" "You have come to your death," promised Fiora. "Unless you choose not to fight by giving me the satisfaction of your offense." "How might I give milady satisfaction?" asked Umberto. "Given the nature of your offense, submit to having your right ear severed from your head." "What? Are you mad, woman?" "It's that or I kill you," said Fiora as though they were discussing the weather. "You know how this duel will end. There is no loss of face in yielding." "Of course there is," said Umberto. And Fiora saw he still thought he could win. Like everyone else, he underestimated her. "All here know my skill with a blade, so choose to live and wear your wound as a badge of honor, or choose death and be food for crows by mid-morning." Fiora raised her blade. "But choose now." His anger at what he assumed was her arrogance overcome his fear and he stamped forward, the tip of his sword thrusting for her heart. Fiora had read the attack before it was launched and made a quarter turn to the left, letting the curved blade cut only air. Her own blade swept up, then down in a precise diagonal arc. The crowd gasped at the wet splatter of blood on stone and the shocking suddenness of the duel's ending. Fiora turned as Umberto's sword clattered to the ground. He fell to his knees, hands clutched his open throat. She bowed to Umberto, but his eyes were already glassy and unseeing with impending death. Fiora took no pleasure in such a slaying, but the fool left her with little choice. Umberto's brothers came forward to collect the corpse, and she felt their shock at their brother's defeat. "How many is that?" asked Amdar, coming forward to collect her sword. 15, 20, 30, said Fiora. Or maybe more. They all look the same to me now. There will be more, promised her brother. So be it, answered Fiora. But every death restores our family honor. Every death brings redemption closer. Redemption from whom? Asked Amdar. But Fiora did not answer. And that was the story of Fiora. In case you would want a little bit more of her, I recommend watching Jax's lore. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe for more stories, leave your feedback down below, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and why don't we chat on Discord. Thank you all so much for watching this video and for your support, you know I appreciate it. And as absolutely always, thank you come again.